All right, welcome back. Teddy Lim once again from John L. Scott Real Estate here in Seattle. Money House Keys method, Teddy Lim's home buying method, so to speak. Um, we're going to go over what title and escrow means right now. Okay, so let's jump in. So, what is title and escrow? So, title from a transactional procedural standpoint actually offers protections, okay, against accidents, potential malicious acts that may really negatively impact a buyer's interest on a property, right? There's intent. There's always an intended use on a property that a buyer has. So it could be anything from being a primary residence. It could be a rental property or an investment property. So what title is supposed to do when they do their job right is they are supposed to be a sort of like a mediator, which really favors neither party, buyer or seller. Okay, and what you're gonna see when you're buying a home is that the title and escrow company are usually the one and the same company, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because they basically hold assets and money and the funds involved in a real estate transaction, sort of as an upholder of what the contract says. Okay, so their main duty is to facilitate the process according to what the contract says. There's a buyer, there's a seller. The buyer wants to buy a house, seller wants to sell. Buyer has funds, they give the funds over. Seller gives the title over to transfer the title over to the buyer. The whole transaction is recorded at the county, and everybody's happy, right? That's the short of it. Okay. Now, a title's insurance policy. Okay, a title's policy. It's really geared towards guarding, right? Guarding, safekeeping against an array of unforeseen circumstances. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, it's all fancy schmancy words. Basically, what that means is title ensures that a title. The title of a property is a marketable or clean title. Okay, now you're probably going to ask, well, what constitutes a title that is not clean? Okay, that's a great question because there are things that could what is called cloud a title or make it not clean. For example, what are those things? So one of them is that there could be accidental mistakes in official documents, whether it's spelling or the legal description of a property. Legal description is a very important aspect of title because if you don't have the right legal description, you could be buying a totally different property, even though what it says is the address of the house in and of itself in your purchase and sale agreement. Okay, which actually brings up a good point because a legal description is what validates a contract. If your real estate agent, if your buyer's agent does not include a title, what did I just say? If they don't include a legal description on your purchase and sale agreement, the contract is void. It doesn't matter, right? And I don't see it. It doesn't happen that often. I don't see a lot of agents forgetting that. Although I'm not really an overseer of transactions, but it does happen. There could be people submitting offers and they don't include the legal description of the property. So what happens? it voids their offer. Doesn't make it makes it null and void. Okay, so very important. Number two is, excuse me. Another thing that could happen is when there is malicious intent, malicious tampering of official documents, right? So there's the accidental mistakes, and then there's the malicious ones, which are deliberate, which means they thought about it. Okay, again, for maybe 90 to 95% of the transactions that are occurring right now, most of it, if it's resale or even if it's a new construction property, you're probably not gonna run into this, but it does happen. And that's why there is an industry of title insurance, because you're putting at risk hundreds and thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars into a transaction, and when you're inadvertently purchasing something that huge and that valuable, you don't want to make any mistakes. Okay. So with that being said, there's also instances of fraud that title and escrow protect you from. Okay, again, it's not usual. It's not a very usual thing, although it does happen. So that's why they put those in place. The fourth and final thing that title and escrow does is to clear liens from a property. Okay, because of the inherent value in real estate, it's not a cheap object, right? It's a real asset. There are examples of liens that get imposed on the property. So what is the definition of a lien? The definition of a lien is a right to keep possession of a property belonging to another person until a debt owed is paid off by that person, and or that debt has been discharged. Okay, so let me repeat that. Definition of a lien. A lien is a right to keep possession of a property or real estate or real asset belonging to another person until a debt by that person is paid off or discharged. Okay, so there's Google for that, there's a dictionary for that, you could look it up. But basically there are four types of liens that would need to be addressed, okay, before a real estate transaction closes. Okay, one of the most common ones is a mortgage, right? A bank lends you the money, or a buyer the money, in order to purchase a real asset, and a lien is imposed as a mortgage, and the house is actually used as collateral for that debt. Okay, so which means if that buyer or that person is not able to make timely payments on that real estate asset, the bank just goes ahead and collects it. They take the house through a process called foreclosure. We'll get into that, but that's the most common type of lien. Okay. Excuse me. Another type of lien is a property tax lien. Sometimes people, fall through hard times and they're not able to pay for their property taxes, which is actually something that we went over in our monthly section of the money portion of the Money House Keys process. You're gonna wanna pay for your property taxes, because it could really add up really fast, and bad things could happen, right? So anyways, moving on. Another type of lien that is not as common, but we still see it out there, is what we call a mechanics or construction or contractors type of lien. So when does this happen? Okay, the most common instance of this happening is when a homeowner hires a group of contractors or carpenters or designers or what have you to either make repairs on a house or make additions to a house, and for some reason they don't pay for, the contractor. The contractor is entitled through a process, okay? They would still need to go through a process in order to impose that lien, and they need to provide proof of that. But when they put that lien on your house and you're trying to sell your house, you won't be able to sell your house until you pay off that lien, okay? Another less common type of lien is actually a judgment lien. They actually kind of fall on the same category. The main point is it's the homeowner owing money to somebody else, whether it's a contractor or you owe that homeowner owes money through like gambling, or there's like a lawsuit or something like that. Those are the typical instances where a lien of that type actually gets imposed on property. So the good news is that, again, it doesn't happen very often that we actually run into a house that goes on the market for sale, and all of a sudden, before closing, we find out, oh my gosh, the home seller has a lien on their house on something, okay? So it doesn't really happen that often, but it does happen. And like I said, at the beginning of our class, our goal is to prepare you for any unforeseen circumstances. So that way you're not, you won't be blindsided by something like this from happening. Again, it's mostly for informational purposes, but I am of the firm belief that the more information you have in your head, the less risk, the less anxiety that you have, and the more confident you are going to be taking action. Okay? So, title and escrow, I think I pretty much covered everything that needs to be known about title and escrow. They do a great job. We use a company called Fidelity Title and Escrow. Our escrow agent is Tiffany Carver out of Tukwila in Fidelity, and her team. They do a great job of clearing these things for us when we're helping sellers out sell their house on the market. So they're a treat. But again, the importance of knowing title and escrow, super important, just so you're fully aware of the things that could happen in a transaction. All right? I think that should be it. Maybe the only other thing that I would need to mention is it's sort of related to title and escrow, is if I'm going to be helping you purchase a condo, there are also what is called assessments. Okay, an assessment is something that needs to be it's something that needs to be taken care of by the seller before they're able to sell their condo. It usually has something to do with a homeowners association, whether it is prorated repairs that had to happen throughout the course of that seller's ownership. It could be repairs of the roof, scheduled maintenance. It could be sidings, windows, what have you, right? But those are things that could show up at before the end of a transaction, and normally that would have to be uncovered by, for one, your buyer's agent. Two, it has to be disclosed by the seller's agent through the resale certificate of a condo. Okay, super important. And I think that's the only other thing that I need to mention about title and escrow. The only other thing I can think about is if you purchase a a home that's less than 15 years old, you're more than likely gonna run into sewer capacity charges. So that's another type of assessment in a real estate transaction. Okay, but other than that, I think that should be it. That should be what you would need to know about title and escrow. So any questions whatsoever, feel free, comment below, send me a text, call me, email me, reach out to me at socials, Teddy Lim Real Estate, info@tlimre.com, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, we're almost there. Closing. Cheers.